China spent $890 million to install 600,000 photovoltaic panels on water, and build the world's largest floating photovoltaic power station on water. The power station can generate 600 million kilowatt-hours a year, and the power station is a joint development model of fishery and power generation. The solar panels can absorb solar power to generate electricity, and a large number of fish can be cultivated below, which not only solves the electricity problem of nearby residents but also revitalizes the local villagers' economy through aquaculture. The expansion of clean energy projects is the path of China's green and low-carbon development. China has a population of 1.4 billion. Even in summer they don't have to worry about power shortage. Unbelievably, the Chinese don't need to pay expensive electricity bills like Europeans, and their electricity bills are 8 cents per kilowatt-hour. Yes, you heard it right. Their electricity bill is $0.08, while the current electricity bill in Europe is 0.7 euros per kilowatt-hour. China's electricity bill is more than 10 times cheaper than Europe's, which is enough to shock the whole of Europe. And these are all thanks to China's huge network of power stations. So, why doesn't Europe vigorously develop solar photovoltaic power plants? Now, let's first understand this large power station in China. The large-scale floating photovoltaic power station is located in Shandong, China, and will officially generate electricity in 2022, covering an area of more than 7,000 mu. The photovoltaic power station has a total of 81 matrices, each of which is composed of more than 8,000 photovoltaic panels, totaling more than 600,000 photovoltaic panels. It can provide 600 million kilowatt-hours of clean electricity every year. The completion of the power station can save 168,000 tons of coal locally and reduce carbon dioxide emissions by as much as 453,000 tons, making a huge contribution to China's goal of zero carbon emissions. The water photovoltaic power station has obvious advantages. The three-dimensional utilization of the reservoir saves nearly 8,000 mu of construction land. It can reduce the evaporation of water and improve economic benefits. China's development of floating photovoltaic power stations is the same as desert solar power stations, and both can be developed in a win-win manner. For example, the desert solar power station can use photovoltaic solar panels to grow crops in the desert, turning the desert full of yellow sand into an oasis. In addition to power generation, the floating photovoltaic power station can also develop aquaculture. China has been developing new villages for nearly 50 years, and this project has also revitalized the economic development of the countryside, allowing tens of thousands of farmers to live a better life and live a stable life without leaving their hometown. Maybe you will be curious, China is not short of electricity, why is it necessary to continue to expand power stations? In fact, the past 20 years have been the peak stage of China's industrial development. At that time, China's clean energy development was backward, and all electricity consumption has been relying on coal power generation. This power generation method has brought a lot of pollution to the ecological environment and aggravated in addition to urban smog. China's coal power generation has also added a force to the occurrence of global warming. Therefore, in 2020 the United Nations Climate Group proposed that China can achieve zero emissions of carbon dioxide. Faced with international pressure, China has pledged to strive to achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. Therefore, in recent years we can see that there are many large desert power stations and hydropower stations in China. In the past 7 years, China's photovoltaic power generation grid-connected installation has easily exceeded 400 million kilowatts, ranking first in the world for 9 consecutive years. China has really embarked on the road of carbon reduction, and the effect is remarkable. So why doesn't Europe vigorously develop photovoltaic power plants? In fact, photovoltaic was first discovered by French scientists in 1839, but there were not so many technological products at that time, and the relationship between Russia and Europe was still very friendly. Russia can continue to supply energy to Europe, and Europe does not face power shortages. And the Earth was not facing the problem of global warming at that time. So this inexhaustible renewable resource was not used on a large scale in Europe, until the two oil crises in the 1970s. Europe, as the first region to develop jobs and achieve industrialization, also stood in the ruins of pollution to develop its economy. Europe has just begun to develop renewable energy, and photovoltaic power plants have gradually entered people's lives. But now, after 50 years, the development of photovoltaic power plants in Europe has not progressed. Extreme environmentalism and human resources have become obstacles to the development of clean energy in Europe. The ecological protection of Greenland has always been the goal of the European Union. The construction of photovoltaic power stations requires a large area of land. The land area of Europe is not as large as that of China. The European Union requires that photovoltaic power stations can only be built on previously industrialized land rather than new on-screen space. That left developers with a relatively limited number of factories, abandoned mine shafts and other previously used land, driving their values soaring. Therefore, even though the government believes that renewable energy should be developed on a large scale, environmentalists believe that the ecological environment cannot be damaged. With the growing opposition to photovoltaic power stations, the development of photovoltaic power stations in Europe has been stagnant. This also makes Europe incapable of guaranteeing people's daily electricity consumption when there is an energy shortage this year. In fact, there are certain contradictions in this kind of extreme protection by environmentalists because their persistence has played a role in ecological protection and people have more green environments, but at the same time it also hinders the development of clean energy in the country and the people of the country are caught in a power crisis. Europe sanctioned Russia and the United States sold natural gas to Europe at high prices. This is not a win-win method. Therefore, if Europe wants to solve the power problem on its own, it must find a way in environmental protection and clean energy projects. How to make the two develop each other and achieve a win-win situation so that the power in Europe can develop better. Secondly, large-scale photovoltaic power plants require a lot of labor and the shortage of labor is also one of the main bottlenecks. Therefore, today because Europe voluntarily gives up Russia's natural gas, energy shortages have appeared in various European countries. Now is the critical stage of the arrival of winter. If it is difficult to continue to use electricity, it means that the people of European countries will suffer the most difficult winter. In fact, China not only builds multiple clean energy power stations in its own country but also helps other countries build power stations together. Solar power stations built by China can now be seen in Egypt, Africa, Qatar, Malaysia and many other countries. The One Belt One Road power station project proposed by China has solved the power shortage problem in many regions and improved people's quality of life by the photovoltaic power station projects. They don't need to buy energy from the United States at a high price. This is a win-win method. It may take a year or half a year for a country to start building solar photovoltaic power stations, but it is worth it. Based on more than 20 years of experience in international EPC projects and our professional technical team, CIMM Energy Group is fully committed to the construction of renewable energy projects to help Europe solve the problem of energy shortage. We not only build the above-mentioned fishery photovoltaic power generation projects and agriculture photovoltaic power generation projects, but also construct industrial rooftop and residential rooftop photovoltaic power generation projects to maximize the utilization of solar energy and ease the energy shortage in Europe.